Hej världen! Jag heter Zack the Demon Lord. Hey world, it is I, Zack the Demon Lord, and yet again another YouTube video. And you might notice I just changed up the intro slightly. I forgot about this for the last video, but I had a Swede happen to find one of my videos and commented for a better way for the intro to change Verld, which is world, into Verlden, the world. So instead of hey Verld, hey world, they would rather say hey Verlden, hey the world, which in English doesn't make as much sense, but it's just one of those grammar things, they just prefer it. But I don't remember who it was, but thank you for that. I'll start using that in my videos. But yeah, this is a continuation of the paganism series. Today I will be doing two different ones. So you can see me in the same outfit if you do choose to watch them both. And I got more spruced up this time. But yeah, so let's get into it. So first things first, for this video we will be discussing what you might call Greco-Roman paganism. Last time I mentioned Norse paganism or Norse heathenry and just overall Germanic paganism, and this time we'll be going over Greco-Roman paganism. I think personally that Greco-Roman paganism is probably a lot more familiar, at least to Americans. I think we do know quite a bit more, or hear a lot bit more about the Greek and the Roman gods than we do about other sort of cultures, mythologies and stuff like that. Sorry. But yeah, we'll get into it. So, kind of like the last one, we'll just go over different things. So, to start off with, we'll go through this. What sort of is Greco-Roman paganism? So when you say Greco-Roman, as you're saying Greek, Rome, Roman, or whatever, and so just with that, it's just referring to both the Greeks and the Romans. More or less, their practices were and beliefs were pretty much a copy-paste situation, which is why a lot of people, when it comes to paganism, just kind of view it as a copy and paste thing. I think there's a lot of people that when they know about the polytheism side, because here in America we learn more about the Greeks and the Romans than we do about the Germans or the Norse or the Egyptians or anyone else, really. We learn about them, especially with this lens of mythology. What ends up happening is that most teachers will first teach us about the Greeks and ancient Greek mythology and stuff like that, and then they will then go into talking about the Romans, and the way they'll usually explain it is that the Romans copied the Greeks and adopted this basically the same gods and the same ideas, but then just turned everything that was Greek into a Latin named version of it, which more or less is true, but it's not exact. there are going to be stipulations. There are going to be, extra gods or gods that get taken out of the pantheon. And so overall, they're going to be both unique. However, because that's basically how it is, there will be a lot of copy over. Now the problem, and I had mentioned this in the other one, the problem with this though, of this idea that it's paganism is all copy and paste, is that it's not. You can look at many different pantheons and many different mythologies and notice differences. One key difference, for example, between the Greco-Roman gods and the Norse gods is, yes, are the Norse gods still frivolous? Sure. Ultimately, they like to eat, drink, sleep around, all that stuff. However, unlike the stories with the Greco-Roman gods, there isn't going to be this very brutal, how do I explain this? Oh, and this kind of brings me into things I could have brought up in the last video, but I forgot to mention. But it sort of gets us into this idea of you live and you die sort of thing. And humans are merely playthings of the gods, which for the Norse and the Germanic sort of beliefs is a little different. Because with the Germanic sort of idea is there's extra beings, not just the gods, but there's all these different types of beings that are just purely that, different types of beings. And sort of the relationship, just to show the difference, is with the Greco-Roman, that is true though, you are, with the Greco-Roman gods, you're just a plaything. With the sort of Norse or Germanic pantheon, or what have you, you just happen to be a part of the world, and you can either side with the gods or not. And that's all that's to it. And I think another thing too is this idea of afterlife. I don't know too much with the Greco-Roman view, but I would definitely think it would be, because there is an underworld, there is definitely a punish sort of place. But I've never personally heard of a paradise sort of place, so maybe that's all there is you go down with Hades after you die. But yeah, unlike with the Norse view, where there are different types of places you could go, and even like reincarnation is another idea. You could just be reincarnated potentially and live a different life. Although that's less talked about. But yeah, focusing on the Greco-Roman paganism. I should have done this earlier. We are going to pull up some sort of website so that way we could see names. Okay. So now I have a website up with some names, and we will, just to give you an idea. So if you are we'll start from the bottom and go up. I don't know why they have it like this, where the top dog's at the bottom, but anyways, it's not even in alphabetical order or anything. It's kind of oh, it is. It's alphabetical by the Greek. Sorry, I'm rambling. I'm sorry, but let's get into this. So, starting from the bottom, because that's what makes more sense right now. So, the most famous of the Greek gods, of course, is Zeus, or Zeus, as we'd say. In the Roman equivalent, he was known as Jupiter, or Jupiter. And then The next Greek god, Poseidon, god of the sea. In the Roman version is Neptune. Then the next Greek god, Persephone, in the Latin was known as Proserpina. And apparently she's a queen of the underworld, so I'm assuming she is kind of related with Hades. The next one it mentions here is, with the Greek side, is Pan. Apparently with the Roman is Faunus. The next Greek one is Nike, who in the Roman pantheon is Victoria. The next one it brings up is, with the Greek, Hermes, who in the Roman is Mercury. The next one it brings up with the Greek is Hera, who in the Roman is Juno, or Juno. The next one it brings up with the Greek is Hephaestus, who with the Roman would be Vulcan, or in English we just say Vulcan. The next one it brings up with the Greek is Helios, who with the Romans is Sol. Let's get that one. The next one it brings up after the one I skipped is Hades, who with the Roman is Pluto. The next one it brings up is Eros, who with the Romans is Cupid. The next one, Dionysus, who with the Romans would be Bacchus. I'm guessing with the spelling, I don't know. The next one it brings up is Demeter, who would be Ceres with the Romans. Another one it brings up is Kronos with the Greeks, who would be with the Romans Saturn. The next one, Athena, would be Minerva with the Romans. The next one, Artemis, would be Diana or Diana with the Romans. Next one it brings up, Ares, would be Mars for the Romans. Next Greek one, Apollo, would be Phoebus Apollo for the Romans. And the last one, Aphrodite, for the Greeks is Venus or Venus for the Romans. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what gods they follow. But yeah, so that then brings us to, what do you do with that information about their gods? Honestly, I think I don't follow, obviously, Greco-Roman Paganism, so I'm not one to know everything about it. But from my experience, from at least what I've been able to observe and see, most Greco-Roman pagans, well, I think just more or less just live their life. It's almost pretty close to, they're obviously not an atheist, but it's kind of like an atheist life. You're just doing what you're doing, not caring. Where their sort of mythology is like there's life and then there's death, and that's about it. From my views at least, I don't remember much about the stories and all that from when I was in high school. But what I do remember is just that, again, idea of, Hades being the ruler of the underworld, and It just seems like the underworld is sort of this big place that most of the dead would go. So yeah, I would assume that's where most people go. So if there's only one destination, there's only one, and so you just live your life. I do know that is from my experiences of what I've read with individuals who happen to be some form of Greco-Roman pagan. It would seem they like it's a lot less. There's a lot less magic involved with it, I would say, and a lot more just, you know, incense, lighting candles, and maybe you pick. It's not uncommon with Norse paganism, but I think it's more common, way more common with Greco-Roman paganism. It seems there's individuals that will pick a god or goddess and might give like offerings, like again the same thing with the Norse. You might give like apples or different fruits or something, or alcohol like wine. You might offer that up to them, but I've noticed there seems to be a few Greco-Roman pagans that will choose a goddess, especially one of fertility, and just ask for their blessings over the home and stuff like that. And so yeah, I don't know what else to say besides that. You know, that's their gods. You can read stuff like the Odyssey or the Iliad or other books like that to get more of an idea of their mythologies. I think I've practically went over everything I can think of. Again, I'm not an expert, but that is sort of a one-on-one, little bits and pieces of information that you might be able to use to understand Greco-Roman paganism a little bit more. But yeah, if you enjoyed this one, please give a like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz, and we'll see you in the next one. And until then, hey-do!